Welcome to Easy English Stories, and today's story is set in a small, quiet village. We will hear about a mysterious person who performs a kind act every single night. Pay attention to the descriptions of the smells and of the feelings of the villagers in today's story. As always, we are reading this story in slow and clear English. But first, let's learn 5 pieces of key vocabulary for today's story. The first word is village. Village. You might know this one already, but it is a very small town in the countryside. A village. Our second word is knead. Knead. To knead. It's a verb. So it's not need as in I need something. It's more of a verb about stretching and pressing dough to make bread. So when you're making bread, you are kneading the dough. And it has a silent K. K-N-E-A-D. To knead. Our third word is aroma. Aroma. An aroma is a pleasant smell, typically a savory smell. Our fourth word is generous. Generous. This is an adjective and it means showing a readiness to give more of something than is expected. And our fifth word is anonymously. Anonymously. This is an adverb and it means doing something without giving your name or identity. So you're staying anonymous and you're doing it anonymously. Okay, don't worry if some of those words were hard, but try to listen for them in today's story. And remember, if you're new, to follow and subscribe so you don't miss out on stories every week. We have 2 stories every single week on this channel. Okay, let's read today's story, and that is The Midnight Baker. Okay, in the valley of Stonebridge, the people were very poor, but they were hardworking. Life was difficult and many families went to bed hungry. However, one Monday morning, something strange happened. Old Mr. Bramble opened his front door and found a warm brown loaf of bread sitting on his doorstep. There was no note. There was no bill, and he looks up and down the street, but the village was empty. The next day, it happened again, but this time, every single house in the village had a loaf of bread, and the aroma of the fresh yeast and honey filled the morning air. "Who is doing this?" asked the mayor. "It is a very generous gift, but we must thank them." The villagers decided to try to solve the mystery. They stayed awake late at night, watching from their windows. But as the clock struck midnight, a thick fog rolled into the valley. Even those watching couldn't see anything. By the time the fog cleared at 5 a.m., the bread was already there. In the corner of the village lived a young woman named Ilara. She worked at the old flour mill. Her hands were always dusty and she was always tired. One night, a curious boy named Leonardo hid inside an empty flour barrel at the mill. At midnight, he heard a sound. Scrape, stretch, thud. He looked through a small hole in the barrel. There was Ilara. She wasn't sleeping. She was kneading dough by the light of a single candle. Her movements were fast and practiced. She baked the loaves in the large industrial oven used for the mill's testing. Then she put on a heavy grey cloak and disappeared into the fog to deliver the bread anonymously. Leonardo realized that Ilara was using her very small wage to buy extra flour for the whole village. He didn't tell the mayor her secret. Instead, the next night, he left a small bag of salt and a jar of honey at the mill door with a note for the baker. Soon, other villagers began leaving small ingredients at the mill. Ilara never said a word, and the villagers never asked. But the bread in Stonebridge started tasting a little sweeter every day. What a great story. Let's have a look at some comprehension questions today and see how much you understood. But first, while we have a little break, if you would like to get my book, Phrasal Verbs Are Easy, which teaches you English phrasal verbs through short stories, you can click the link in the description below. It's on discount for a limited time, so you can pick up a copy and learn some English phrasal verbs from context through these short stories. So check that out and you can support the show that way. Let's have a look at our comprehension questions today. So I'm going to ask the questions and then I want you to pause and try to answer. Okay? So the question 1, what did the villagers find on their doorsteps every morning? So the answer is, of course, freshly baked bread. Why was it so difficult for the villagers to see who was delivering the bread? It was difficult because a thick fog rolled into the valley. And I suppose as well because Ilara usually wore a big cloak with a hood, so it was hard to see her. Now, question 3. Where was Ilara working? Where did she work? She worked at the old flour mill. Question 4. How did Leonardo help Ilara after he discovered her secret? He helped her by leaving some ingredients, some honey, at the door of the mill with a note, telling her to that it was for the baker. Great. So, with this story, it shows us the kindness of Ilara, wanting to help the whole village to bake bread and to do it from the goodness of her own heart. Even though she earned very little and she had little, she still decided to give. And I think that's a wonderful, wonderful thing, a beautiful thing. And my question today is, do you think that it is good or important to give gifts anonymously, or do you think it's important for people to know who the giver is and why? I hope you enjoyed today's story. If you did, let me know. I always love to hear what you think. I hope you learned a new word. We had great words such as village, to knead, so to knead bread, aroma, generous, anonymously, and probably some additional words in the story there as well. Thank you very much for listening, and I hope to see you in the next episode of Easy English Stories. Goodbye.